and the boss is mad at me, but it's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days, nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Well, I locked my keys in the car. Well, that's the third time this week so far. It's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days, nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Just one of those days. The sun don't seem to shine, and you wish you could rewind and just go back to yesterday. It's just one of those days. Well, my wife called me up in tears and said she just rolled the car and she thinks it's dead. But it's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days, nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Well, I told my wife I'm feeling stressed. She said, we got a letter from the IRS. But it's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days, nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Just one of those days. The sun don't seem to shine, and you wish you could rewind and just go back to yesterday. It's just one of those. Just one of those days, the sun don't seem to shine, and you wish you could rewind and just go back to yesterday. It's just one of those. It's just one of those. Hey everybody, what's going on? Oh man, it is going great. Let's do the intro music. How did I skip that? Daggone. This is Rilo's Quack Chat. As a call maker, I enjoy talking shop with other duck call makers. On this podcast, it's all about duck calls and duck hunting. From the marsh to the duck call shop, we're going to find the story behind the duck calls. If you're tuning in, make sure to comment below. This is Rilo's Quack Chat. Say hi, quack, whatever you want to do. Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Riley Hendrickson with Rilo's Quack Chat, talking about duck calls, duck hunting, the duck season that is upon us. I have not been out yet because for some reason I got duck call orders. Isn't it crazy? As soon as season kicks in, it's like, hey, I need a duck call. So isn't that crazy? Oh my gosh, Dax Piper's tuning in. What's going on, champ? Yeah, so Dax won Delta, best of show at Delta. That's awesome. Hey, Dax. But tonight, crazy, awesome things going on. We're going to keep it short because people are probably going to be watching the debate tonight. I was a dummy to schedule that today, but it is what it is. We are going to be talking about Reelfoot. We're going to be talking about the competition, the rules, the just everything that goes along with the competition. Why you need to be entering the competition. You can send your calls in, all that good stuff. Ship them in if you can't make it. But I highly suggest you try to make it because it's such a fun time. I absolutely love it. Hey, it's going great, Dax. I wonder if Dax is going to be at Reelfoot this year. Come on, Dax, give us a chance. Just don't enter a metal read and I'll be fine. But anyone, you see his picture with, he actually asked me not to post his picture, so I put the little sticker of the CCAA over his face. My guest this evening, the head over the competition, has done it, I think, for the last 2 years and is doing it again this year. He does a great job at that. Mr. Ryan Doering, how are you doing, sir?
Doing good.
How do you pronounce your last name? Do I butcher it every time I see you?
Everyone does. It's Doering. So, yeah. Okay, I'll get a hard time from a few guys about that.
Deering. That's awesome. That is hilarious. That is funny. I love that. But Ryan, man, the other day it was, I don't know what it's like over in Minnesota, but it was really nice and cool over here. And the other day I'm like standing out on my porch drinking coffee and it's like, man, I'm feeling the waterfowl season. I'm feeling like I can just feel like Reelfoot's coming, you know. How's it going over on your end? I mean, are you getting excited for Reelfoot and the duck hunting season and all that good stuff?
Oh yeah, I'm always excited for Reelfoot. You know, it's a great event. You know, everyone gets together and it's just, you get to meet a lot of people. So a lot of call makers, guys you look up to, guys that, you know, you all have common interests, so it's a heck of event that the CCAA has been doing for, I don't know, about 30 years, I'd say now.
Yeah, I'll never forget when I first met you. Like I was, the first year I went, the most recognizable person there is Cody Law because he has that big beard. And I was like, hey, Lawman, and he's like, hey, you want to see the calls I got on trade? I was like, sure. So I like go into his little cabin and he's showing me the calls, and I didn't even realize I walked past people when I walked in. Like I saw all the calls that he had traded. He's like, yeah, there's a Waylon Thompson and there's Ryan Deering's call. And I'm like, I was like, you got their calls? And he's like, they're both behind you. And so I turned around. I'm like, no kidding. But, you know, and, you know, I've talked to a couple of people recently that are probably coming for their first time. It's like, man, it's hard to realize who is who because you just know them by their duck calls, right? So that first year is literally like drinking from a fire hydrant.
It is. anytime you go to a show, like your first show, and you, especially for me when I went 2 years ago, you're just kind of in awe seeing all these guys that you kind of look up to, and so it's just really neat.
Yeah. Yeah, so Ryan, let's go ahead and because this episode is just going to be about Reelfoot. It's just going to be about the competition, just going through some of the stuff, the info that people need, and yeah, kind of like a public service announcement, I guess. When okay, let's see here. What was going to be my first question? Oh, so let's go over the whole situation with the Eagle's Nest, what's going on right now with Reelfoot. Could you just give us a little synopsis?
Yeah. So I'll just basically start out in case nobody is aware. Uh, it's the get together is 11th and 12th of October. So just in case anybody didn't know what the dates were,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of when it's going. So as far as the contest will be held. So back to your question, sorry. Um, so essentially, the Eagle's Nest had some remodeling and stuff like that going on. I think they've been having it going on all summer, and so all their rooms are rented out to the workers. We didn't really know ahead of time, so when guys started to try to call and get their rooms, and all of a sudden there was a big panic that, hey, where am I going to stay? I've stayed here for all this time, so we've actually, luckily, and moved everything down to South Shore. So, and they've been great to work with. They really want to get the competition to grow, not just the competition, but the whole event. So they've been super accommodating. We've kind of ironed out the details as far as the layout, where booths are going to go, where the contest is going to go. So they've been really great with that. So long story short.
Good. Good. So, I mean, that and the Eagle's Nest, I mean, everyone had their booths there. The competition was in the back area. I mean, how long has that competition been going on behind there? I mean, this is just like the upset to the apple cart. It's like daggone. So, I mean, it's probably got everyone scrambling to figure out the logistics of how it's going to go this year.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing was just having people trying to find a place to stay
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people stayed there. Um, I was in a little bit of a panic just figuring out, know, like you said, the logistics of where everything's going to maybe go, where the contest can go. Um, but I actually got a call from them from South Shore today, and we ironed it all out. So I think it's going to be really, really good. Just because everything, for the most part, is in a centralized location. A lot of the guys stay at South Shore anyways,
Yeah.
and so having everything right there will be super convenient. So they're really been accommodating.
And you could tell, like, in the past, the owner of South Shore really likes the Reelfoot Call Festival. Like, he's been very supportive. Um, and the Eagle's Nest, not so much. Like, they're there, but but it's
Well,
go ahead.
yeah, they've been. I mean, Eagles Nest has been gracious too, as far as letting booths get set up and run the competition. I think the last 2 years they've made lunch for everyone. They a big spread.
Uh huh.
So they've done some good things too. It's just this year it didn't really kind of work out to be there. But
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know the logistics behind the background as far as what they did. I do know the owner was a little ticked last year when Colton Lee took a nap in her tulips.
that that might be an issue. Yeah.
That was hilarious. But no, so but yeah, I'm really excited to see how where the setup this year is and all that good stuff. It'll be good.
Yeah, so I can just kind of tell you. So if you're familiar, there's that park, Spicer Park, right there,
Mm-hmm.
um, overlooking the lake, kind of where the flagpole is, where we do the big send off,
Yeah.
kind of. So that's actually South Shore property. So we'll be able to do the contest right there. Um, they've actually got picnic tables, all that stuff, so that'll all be ready to go for us. And then the booths they have kind of next to where um, the kind of the rock cabins are. There's
Mm-hmm.
an empty lot, so we'll have it's kitty corner from the park, so we'll be able to have all the booths and stuff there. So really convenient for pretty much everyone.
Nice.
And I'll be posting, or at least maybe the club will, but posting kind of like a layout flyer of where everything is and all that. Hopefully coming up here soon.
Okay. Yeah, and so when are you going to start taking or when can people start shipping their calls to you?
So if you're gonna send calls, you can either send them to myself, or you can send them to anyone that's coming along, and they can just check in for you as long as you have the sign-in sheet with them. So,
Oh, they
but
can
as
do
far as
that.
yeah, anybody that's going that you know, if you want to send them with them, you can just have the money and like the entry fee and the sign up sheet with the calls, so we know who's there.
Nice. I was told last year you guys weren't allowing that anymore. Okay.
Not from my understanding, no. And I'm running it, so I don't think so.
Cool.
But as far as shipping me calls, probably the week of the 11th, so that Monday or Tuesday, which would be like the 8th or 9th, whatever, would be like the last day I'd probably want to have calls coming in.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Has that happened before where you come home and then there's calls that were sent and they just showed up late?
No, luckily I haven't had that happen. Everybody has been pretty good with the timing, so no issues there.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. That answers a big question because a gentleman, his friend was coming, but I was like, man, I was told last year you couldn't send your calls with a friend or someone that was going. So now they can. That's excellent.
Yeah.
That is awesome. How many years have you been doing the competition, overseeing it?
So this will be my third year, and my third year actually going to Reelfoot. So
Really?
yeah,
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say I got talked into by Brian Byers, who's ran it for I don't know 10 years or something. So he sweet talked me into doing it.
Yeah, Brian's a cool guy. I like Brian.
Yep.
Yeah, Brian's that guy. Like, if I don't know someone, I find Brian. I'm like, who is that? And he knows everyone. Like, he's like, oh, that's so and so. That's so and so. That's so, and like just like that first year, man, it was like I tell everyone, the first year is like holding your head in a fire hydrant, but like Brian was so helpful for holding my head in the fire hydrant because he was like, that guy, you need to. Have you ever heard of that guy? And he's just like Mr. Info.
Yeah, he's excited about it too.
Oh yeah, oh
you
yeah.
know.
And how many years has he been doing this? And he's like been going to Reelfoot, and it's just like Christmas morning for him. He loves it.
Yeah, yep. I think a lot of guys are like that.
Everyone's saying Doering.
Yeah, I told you.
I was that's funny. That's hilarious. What was I gonna say? Oh, yeah, Josh. So earlier we found out it was Deering. So yeah, we know from now on. No, but what was I gonna say? So it seems like the last couple years the competitions run kind of smooth. Now, you know how call makers are, Ryan. About 6 months ago, there was scuttlebutt going on amongst the call makers that there were going to be changes in the competition. And then as soon as the Eagle's Nest thing happened, it was like it went super quiet on that end. So is the competition going to be exactly how it has been? I mean, were there talks of changing it up a little bit?
Well,
What's
there's always talks about people wanting to kind of do things a little differently, whether it's the type of routine that's being run for the contest or how each caller, if they need breaks, this and that, material type things. So there's always talks, but I'm still new enough, in my opinion, to not really want to rock the boat yet. So I've tried to hold off on some of this stuff, just because it's been such a long tradition.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, how old is it? Like 30 years old? Like something crazy? It's been going on forever.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I think the club was like 1981 or two when it formed. So,
Wow.
I mean, I don't exactly, but I feel like it's been at least 20 years since Reelfoot's been going.
Hmm. Hmm. The what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, it's just anyone that's going, you guys just got to go. You got to go. It's just so much fun cuz I mean, and that's like the thing I love about the competition, Ryan, is it's all about the sound. It's not about the looks. Someone could literally turn a 2x4 the night before and hand it in.
Yeah,
And if the insert sounds good, like a metal reeded insert or something in the mill reed division, and you just have a 2x4 barrel, you could possibly win the thing. So, and I think that'd be hilarious if someone entered a 2x4 barrel with just an insert. But
as long as it's not stabilized and it's just natural wood, you're good to go.
see, while we are talking, you mind, and let's see, how long have we been doing this? Not very long. You mind if we go over the rules real quick and I do like a image capture of my screen so we can look through the rules?
Yeah, no problem.
All right, let's do it. All right, we are looking at the Call Makers and Collectors Association of America website, home member, login, blah, 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 blah. Now, before we start going over the rules, if I say anything that you want to jump in, do you have to be a member to enter into the competition?
You do, unless you are entering in the amateur division.
And how much is the amateur division this year?
So all entry fees are $15, no matter what division you're in. So it's pretty inexpensive considering other contests. Obviously, there's no prize money, I guess you could say, but that money helps to go fund the club, helps to be able to send out these newsletters and just generally, do things to help call makers and collectors. So
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because if anyone's watching or watches in the future or asks about rules or whatever, we can just send them the video, or they can look up the rules. Are the rules going to stay the same, or are they going to be updated?
I'm pretty sure they're going to stay the same. I don't see any reason to change anything right now. So
Okay. All right. Divisions: A metal reeds, a barrel, stopper, and tone board must be constructed out of natural wood. The stopper will have a flat tone board, curved metal reed, and wedge or wedge block. Stabilized wood is not a natural wood. A metal band on the end of the call barrel where the insert goes in it is acceptable. Caps, tips, guards, and spacers inlays are allowed on the lip rest and insert as long as the cap material is made from a natural wood. Any comments on that?
nope. That kind of goes throughout all divisions as far as the caps,
Okay.
tips, tails, whatever you want to call them. I always get questions from guys on, can they be made from this? Can they be made from that? And basically the answer is no. They have to be the same material um, as the division. So the reason we just want to kind of keep everything the same within the divisions as far as material goes. So
Okay.
the only one that would be different would be the open. Obviously, you're allowed to kind of use whatever you want, as long as it's not made from natural wood or acrylic. So you could use corian or ebonite or stabilized wood, that type of thing.
Right. Right. And the metal reed division is actually the only division you can enter 2 calls in, right?
Yep.
And has that always been the fact, or was there? I mean, is that
Um,
just because it's Reelfoot and that's kind of like the tradition, is those type of calls?
so in the past, I believe, and this was before my time, so I can't exactly speak on it, but I'm pretty sure that at one time, there was not really a limit, or there was more of a, I guess, higher limit of calls for each division you could enter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the reason, as far as the metal reed is, I'll just say it's less popular type of call that people make. And so we allow 2 in there versus the 1 for every other division. And kind of the reason behind that is because the contest is different than others, where other contests you'll have a bunch of different judges operating the call and then scoring it. Well, at Reelfoot, we're having one operator run the entire division, and then the judges are on the sideline. They don't see the call, they don't know what it looks like, and they're just listening and scoring.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Has now I'm not going to ask that question because we're not going to talk about that. Now
Okay.
would because I mean I'm sure people ask you if the content, like I'm sure people pitch ideas of how the competition should be run better, but it's what is, and that's how it is. So um would
I mean, if
call
you want to talk about something, we can talk about it. It's up to
well
you.
I mean that's just opening a whole bag of cats, you know. I mean it
Yeah.
has, and I'll just ask one. I'll just ask this one. Has anyone wanted to put a partition up around the judges to make sure there's no?
Um, Not that I've heard of. I mean, the judges are pretty good at staying, within the rules. They're not really, you know, they're just, we have collectors that do it, some call makers that'll do it, so they're really just trying to make it a fair, fun competition.
Right,
So,
right, and you know, the that's why I sometimes hear rumblings in the community after like NWTF or some of these other competitions where the judges are looking at them and handling them, and you know but I mean I mean from my perspective of I ran a competition, even though it was like an hour competition WWE style, head to head, man, there you still have like people that aren't happy. Like it
yeah,
always happens.
I mean, yes. And until someone wants to say, all right, I want to take it over, it's just, it is what it is, right?
Yep. Aaron Guthrie's watching, so is Chris Alexander. Hey everybody. Um all right, so we will kind of just browse through these real quick. Wood call with plastic reed, the barrel stopper, and tone board must all be constructed of wood. The stopper may contain single or double plastic reed. Well, blah, 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 blah. I actually freaked you out for a second last year when I made a wedge hybrid and we weren't sure if that was legal.
Yeah.
And then
I had to
realized,
take a look at that.
yeah, you're like, why did you do that? So yeah, since it says stopper, so that someone could enter a Louisiana style or kind of like what I did, a mallard tone style acrylic hull, the barrel stopper, and tone board. So the same thing through all these. So it's just wood, acrylic, and then I mean, we don't really have to go over the acrylic. If anyone wants to ask Ryan a question, leave a comment. Aaron, Chris, if you have any questions, Joe, just leave a comment and I'll ask Ryan. The open division, there's a lot of questions there.
Yep.
Do you want to browse over that real quick?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's just you can't use natural wood or acrylic anywhere on the call. That's the only stipulations. I get asked questions, well, why? Why can't we do that? And it's essentially because, if you have an acrylic or, say a natural wood, mostly acrylic tone board, the barrel and, it plays a little bit of an impact on it, but really not as much. So you're still going to get that acrylic type sound, if that makes sense. Yeah. So that's a way to differentiate between an open versus, say, an acrylic division or a wood division.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to also give call makers like an outlet to just have fun with it, right? So you can use, a brass tone board or corian or ebonite, all those different materials that are out there that aren't, necessarily the common ones, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris Alexander just said, howdy fellas, I've cut Dax Piper and MIG tone boards and sleeved them in my shape. Is that cool? As long as you are cooking barbecue with Cody Law this year.
Bring the fire pit, Chris. That was a nice addition.
That fire pit, everyone wanted to hang around that, didn't they?
Yep, it was good.
It was a fun time. And then let's cover the amateur real quick. I mean, you don't have to be a member to do that. It's the same rules as pretty much the wood, correct?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay. And I don't see here, but if you win first or second in the amateur, you can't enter it anymore?
I believe it's just the first.
Just the first place. Okay.
Yeah. Trying to find that on the rule here, but I'm pretty sure that's what it.
Injection molding. So, of course, like the rules, no injection molding, no CNC. I mean, come on. If you're a call maker, you're not going to be sleeving echoes, hopefully.
Hopefully.
I know that NWTF actually had someone stuff a call one time and enter it. I saw that 2 years ago.
Yeah, I remember
that. If only that guy knew how much of the talk of the town that was. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
Judging the calls, I mean, it's if you go down there, you'll see it. I mean, 3 judges. One guy's handing the calls back and forth. One person is writing down the scores. Ryan is overseeing everything, correct?
So the judges are the ones writing the scores. I have a score runner who brings them to me. And then as the competition goes on, I'm just typing as fast as I can to get the scores in. So there's not a huge wait at the end of the competition. So
yeah, and I feel for you because it was like, it was that afternoon, wasn't it, when you put up all the scores? And didn't you have a bunch of people going, "What was my score? What was my score?"
Yeah, every year. So that's all right. I mean, I get it. People mess with me too. They'll text me like 6 times in a row. Where's, who won? So they just do it as a joke, some of them.
Well, you usually know as soon as they blow that last call, it's like within 10 minutes, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, y'all start putting the ribbons out with the calls and then deciding on best of show.
Yeah.
Has a metal reed ever won best of show? Do you know that? Know if it has?
Oof. Honestly, I don't know that. That's a good question. You should probably have someone on that knows that.
Yeah, because that's, man, it's hard to um and I may, after this, I may go back at the scoring next. I don't remember if y'all show the scoring of the best of show. I don't think you do.
Typically, I try, at least I believe I do, to try to release all scores from first, to last, no matter what it is. So if I didn't one year, then that was a mistake on my part. But you know, for sure, I want to let everyone know where they placed.
Yeah.
And some guys might not like that because maybe they have a brand or whatever. Um, but at least it's full transparency for everyone,
Yeah.
and it saves me a ton of time for messages. So
Yeah. I mean, now before the competition, do you like encourage people not to be posting their competition calls on call nuts, or at least not saying that they're the competition calls? Because I mean, that would
yeah,
be,
it, with the style of the competition, with the judges not looking at the calls or
mm-hmm.
seeing the calls,
It doesn't
it
matter.
really doesn't matter. No.
Okay. Yeah. And last year, I mean, my dad, he went with me 2 years ago. He went last year, and it was so funny because this last year we literally sat and watched the competition, and even my dad, who does he doesn't know a lot. He doesn't know about tones and stuff. He was like, the acrylic division, he's like, man, that was close. I'm like,
Yeah.
how would you know? He's like, they all sounded so close. Like, you're literally splitting hairs on those. So, I mean, last year was such a tight competition.
Yeah, it really was. There was a lot of ties and a lot of, 1 or 2 points from, first to third or, whatever. It was really close. There's so many good call makers out there. So it's really good competition.
Oh, yeah. Now, if there's a tie, how is that determined who gets the higher pole position?
So depending on, well, typically it's, say there's a total score tie, right? And then we would go to like the first category of the score, which will be, I think it's the hail call.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever scored higher in the hail call, they would actually be ahead. That'd be the tiebreaker. If they go all the way down where there's not, say the whole total score is completely identical, then we'll actually have a call off. And I think we had to do that last year, where they had to rerun the 2 calls and rejudge them.
Wow, that's tight.
Yeah.
That's a tight competition. So hold on a second. Wait. So how is it scored? I mean, you just said they score the hail call. Do they score different things as the call is being blown?
Yep. So they'll judge the hail call, individual quacks, the feed, and then the comeback, and then just a general overall sound.
Now,
so those are like the little categories within the scoring.
And I mean, and it all really depends on the judges at that point, because I mean, it was like, it felt 2 years ago like a more of a top end Main Street scored well, and then this last year it felt like more of a live duck did better. As far as and I mean, does that just fall on the ears of the judges?
I mean, it does. The root. So here's another, it's a hot topic every now and then as far as the type of routine we're asking the call operators to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Main Street style, what's the word? What did I just say? Main Street style routine. So, you want to hit those high hails, you want to get all the other, little things, the feed call, the comeback call, all that type of stuff. Instead of, a lot of people will wonder why we don't just do like a meat or a live duck kind of thing. And again, it goes back to tradition, really. It's just how it's been done. It sets it apart a little differently from
Mm-hmm.
other comps. So
And I mean, you can, but you have to admit the metal read routine is a little different.
it is. Yeah, it is.
Just because
Um,
you're wailing on you blow a metal reed totally different than a normal mylar duck call.
and it's still the same type, overall gist, I guess you could say, of a routine. Uh, we're not looking for the operators to be, you know, stage type. We would love to have people that are on the stage running these calls, but that's not the type of routine we're really looking for. We just
Mm-hmm.
need the style, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And then I mean, you're talking about, man. Last year it seemed like that metal. It seems the last 2 years the metal read division's pretty big, especially because you can enter two calls.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I don't know if probably maybe one or two people out of the viewers right now have watched a metal read, and it's like, man, it's a lot, and to be blowing that many calls, that's a lot. That's a feat. So,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
just the logistics of what you're doing. It's got to be difficult because you have one guy running 30 different duck calls with 30 different back pressures, 30 different tones, and you've got, not only are you getting the caller fatigued, but I'm sure the judges are probably getting fatigued as well. I don't know if you've ever been in a duck blind, but you eventually just go, shut up and run the jerk rig.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a challenging, again, this is one of the topics that come up yearly is, trying to make it fair from the first call ran to the last call ran as far as the operator and the judges. And one of the reasons why the entries were limited was because we had too many calls being entered for one person to be able to run, successfully and at the same level. So typically we don't have that many metal read entries, which is why you're allowed two.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone else is one for that reason.
Are you preparing possible? So many people bought that Fred Rowe jig when Ivan Hess headed that up this last year, and it's like I've only seen maybe two people come out with calls from those. And then I posted that who else is entering a Reelfoot call at Reelfoot, and you and Mike Whitson and Ryan Russa. It's like,
Yeah, you'll get a few more guys. It depends on who shows up. Like Jason Rode makes a heck of a call. Byers obviously makes a heck of a metal read too. Benny Floyd unfortunately passed, but he would enter. So yeah, I mean, there's guys out there that still make them, and they might not just be on Facebook. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Did Benny Floyd enter last year?
he did. Yeah.
Really? I need to look that up. That's and I probably
Yeah.
Was he there last year?
No, he wasn't able to make it.
Oh. Yeah, it's just, that's, hopefully we can get more metal reads out there. I don't want to see that division ever die, because it's just so much fun hearing. It's so traditional. Like my dad, he was sitting there, he was like, it is so cool to hear those metal reeds just wailing over the water. It's just so cool.
Yeah, it's a blast. I mean, just making them is, it has it's a whole different ball game as far as how you do things. So they're fun to make, they're fun to hear, and they're fun to hunt with. So
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone, here in a little bit, we're going to be closing out. If you have any questions about the competition or Reelfoot or anything, please leave them below, and we will get to them in the next 5 minutes or so, because Yeah, because once again, I was an idiot for scheduling this the night of the debate. So there's going to be people that are probably watching that. So, what was I going to say? What's your? I mean, we've gone over the competition. We've gone over Reelfoot a little bit. What's going on at the Eagles Nest? What's your favorite part of Reelfoot, Ryan? Like, what do you look forward to?
I mean, and I won't be the first to say it and not the last, but it's just the people. I mean, last year was, I thought, a phenomenal showing from people. We had a lot of people show up compared to the year before, and the whole thing, with Cody and Waylon cooking and doing that whole thing, and Chris Hare and Farrell, all those guys just added something extra to the event, right? Just the food, the camaraderie. That's the best part to me. The competition is fun. It's cool to do. It's bragging rights, that type of thing. But the overall camaraderie is why I enjoy it so much.
Yeah. Aaron Rob Protzman said, I'll be entering a Metal Read call this year. Awesome, Rod. Can't wait to see it. Aaron Guthrie said, the atmosphere at Reelfoot is unmatched. I'll tell you what, it was hilarious and very awesome to watch. Her and Nate's son literally left with a lanyard full of calls. He looked like a little voodoo shaman over there with all the calls he had.
Yeah. That was neat.
Yeah, but no, it's a great time. Like a guy asked me the other day, we were talking about, one guy, he's from Maryland, and he was like, should I come? I was like, man, I don't know. And he's like, well, describe it. And I was telling him about just the camaraderie and just, man, I was like, I don't know if you realize this, Ryan, but it was so crazy. Like, I remember I was at the Josh Lynn had the bunkhouse last year, and I was in the bunkhouse, and my dad was there, and I remember waking up and like seeing my dad staring at the ceiling. I'm like, Dad, you didn't go to sleep? He's like, I heard duck calls till 2 a.m. outside. And I'm like, dude, the night before the competition, those guys are serious. Like, I think that's the only place in the world you can blow a duck call till 2 a.m. and the cops aren't going to show up.
Yeah.
So it's
and that'll happen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Guys fine tuning and then overthinking and then rethinking, and so.
And it's so funny because you'll hear that call and it'll be almost there, and then it'll be quiet for a second, and then all of a sudden you hear beep, just like squawks out, and then you hear this daggone it, and then they're doing it again. It's hilarious. Those guys, you just know, like, those guys have them tuned perfectly, and then they get there and they start messing with someone else's call, and it just bugs them. Yep.
Yeah, and I try to, like, that's one of my things. If I get it tuned, I try not to mess with it. I don't want to second guess this stuff. And if it does well, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. But I thought it was good at the time. You know what I mean? So I try not to mess with it, but it's difficult.
I scored last place last year in the Metal Read division. So this year I'm submitting 2. So if I score last again, I will at least be second from last with the other call.
Yes, higher. Yeah, there you go.
It's just being optimistic, Ryan. But
I know, I like it.
Joe, Joe's talking about making a Mel Read. You need to make one and send it to the competition, Joe. Joe Butcher. No, but have you ever gone to the fancy call competition?
Funny story. I have not, but apparently I'm coordinating that as well this year.
Cool.
So, yeah, I will be in Lombard. It's actually next year in April, I believe. So I'm going to need some tutoring on that, on how that all works as far as coordinating that. So.
See, and I don't understand why I never go, because that's only like 2.5 hours for me, or 3 hours.
Right. and it's
So
6 for me, so it's a half the drive. So
yeah. So it's almost half the drive for me. So it's like, I don't know. Uh, it just seems like, isn't that in February or March?
I think it's April.
April. Well, even by then, it's like, man, you just went through the busy season of selling duck calls. Usually after January 1st, my season just stops in its track. So I mean, you're making duck calls. You've been hunting all. I don't know if do you get out hunting a lot during the duck season?
I didn't last year, but this year I've committed to it. I mean, my daughter plays hockey. My other daughter's in gymnastics. We're super busy with that during the season, especially with hockey. Um, but I've committed this year to get out a lot more, and my wife's on board, which is the majority of the battle. So we just had our early teal season last weekend. So that was fun. Went out there. I think our group shot about 20 between
Nice.
all of us. So that's kind of a new thing in Minnesota. I think this is the third year we've had it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You.
season opens next week.
Oh yeah. It's what season? Teal?
Or no, duck season starts September 21st here.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
You lucky dog. So did you already have teal and all that stuff?
Yep. We only get a 5-day teal, and that was on the now couple not last weekend, the weekend before. So yeah, the first. It started on the first.
Yeah. Hey, Captain Farrell. Yeah. Captain Farrell, you need to do a mail read this year, man. Um, and
Hope he brings oysters again.
Oh, you know what? I didn't get to partake in the oysters. We showed up later that day. But we showed up pretty late that night actually. But man, it seems like we get our crap together a little bit better each year. each year.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it now real quick before we get off of here, one thing people that are tuning in, watching, asking about the competition, one thing you need to know about is trade calls. Make sure to bring a couple of trade calls with you. Do you ever do any trading down there, Ryan?
I do. Actually, the majority of pretty much all my collection are trade calls, and the majority are from Reelfoot. So bring a decent amount just for trades. That's the fun part too. You can get a guy's call, and he'll try yours, switch it up. So that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's and people ask me, they're like, "Can you sell calls down there?" It's like, I wouldn't go down there just to mainly sell calls. Like, some do, but I wouldn't make that my goal, honestly.
No, I mean, yes, people are, there's obviously collectors down there, people buying calls, so it's not going to hurt anything. But I mean, don't expect to go down there and sell out 20 calls, right? I mean, especially now in this economy, it's tough all the way around. So
Yeah, everyone needs to just look on Call Nuts and look at all the big collections people are literally dropping and have been in the last 2 months. It's like crazy to watch, Ryan. Like, people are dropping huge collections for sale.
yeah, Cody Law and I were just talking about that, just seeing how many are getting rid of them, these collectible type calls, So
Yeah, and go ahead.
no, I was gonna say it probably ebbs and flows a little bit, but yeah, it's a little surprising.
And and watching people, not only watching people drop their calls, dropping their collections, but also people dropping their prices. And I mean, it's for a couple of years, everyone's pretty much for a custom call it was $150. Now it's people are dropping, slowly dropping. And I talked to an older call maker 2 months ago, maybe. And I was like, man, have you seen this before? And he's like, every 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
He said every 10 to 15 years, the market gets saturated. There's a huge influx of call makers. And then people can't sell a call for about a year. And then about 80% of them give up. And then he said then it starts picking up about 2 years after that.
Yeah.
So it's like,
That
wow.
sounds about like the cycle we're in.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
go ahead.
Sorry. Like 2020, I mean, everybody calls were flying off the shelf. People couldn't make them fast enough. And now, you know, it's kind of the market's down, but it just is what it is.
But, that's a good the market going down. Also, I don't know if you've seen this, but Chris Beckman, with what coming out with a new type of adjustable cut down, you had the guy that just came out with a Woody call and 6-in-1 combo. I'm experimenting with different types of Mel Reed type of things. That's when your people are going to try to do new and different things to try to be able to sell their calls. Now, if they sell them, that's one, I don't know. But people are starting to get inventive, and that's kind of, if you ever look at history, that's what happens when you get a lull in a situation like that. People start getting inventive. So it's good and bad, but oh well.
Yeah, I mean, it moves the art form forward, if that makes sense. It helps. So
Yeah, I think Ryan Graves told me that Fred Allen came out with the his first call in 1867, I think it was. So I mean, calls have been around in this country for a good little while.
Yeah, a little bit.
So the market's just full of duck calls. So hopefully it gets better. But Ryan, we didn't have many questions at all, and people are just hopping on, hopping off, grabbing a little bit of this and that. Do you have any before we get out of here? Do you have any suggestions for anyone that's coming to Reelfoot for their first time?
Just be, like you said, be prepared to have your head in a fire hose, because you'll be seeing a lot of people, meeting a lot of people. I mean, just enjoy it. I mean, it's a great time right on the lake. It's great scenery, great people. It's really a chill, fun kind of grassroots event. So just that's what to kind of expect a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, guess what, Ryan? Even though this wasn't an interview about you or your calls, I'm making you do the last 3 questions.
All
right, you ready for them?
Yep, shoot.
Here we go. If you could go back in time and do a hunt all over again, what would it be?
It'd probably be the first hunt I ever did. The guy that introduced me to duck hunting, which I've only been hunting about 6 years now, so it hasn't been a long time. But
wow,
just the first hunt, because everything was new. Everything was like kind of in awe of everything. You got the birds buzzing you, all their work in the decoys, just the call, everything, right? So that stands out in my mind of one that I'd like to take in again, just because it was new, right?
Yeah.
Plus, I shot a canvasback, so that was cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, second question. If you could hunt in a blind with 3 other people, friends, family, legends, living or deceased, who would it be?
So I don't want to get too depressing here, but I'd probably just my dad and I. He never hunted. Excuse me. He never hunted, but he passed away when I was about 13. So I just think it would be a cool experience to share with them,
Yeah.
So that would be the one that I want to do.
Yeah. Yep. All right, number 3. If you could stand over the shoulder of any call maker of all time and watch him make a duck call, who would it be?
Wow. I knew you were going to ask these questions. I was trying to come up with the answers.
Surely he won't on this episode.
Yeah, I'm a planner, so I had to figure something out. But honestly, you could pick a name out of the hat from some of those guys that were back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and
Mm-hmm.
I would like Glotto, right? Like that would just be a phenomenal thing to watch, just because of the type of tooling used, just how they did it back then. We have all of this, metal lathes, machinery, all this stuff that makes it relatively simple compared to how they started. So I think just watching that would be really neat.
Wasn't it Glotto that would heat up like a steel rod and then literally burn the duck call on the rod to get the bore?
It might have. It sounds right. I don't know for sure though.
I think that's him. Yeah, any of those old guys that were making metal reed calls when, and their competition was like 5 or 10 other guys. Like,
Yeah.
those guys were the OGs. Like, because there was no one before them, and they
Right.
kind of just stole off of each other. So, yeah, I've talked to people and they're like, man, those early calls versus like these new Reelfoot calls, it's just day and night, because all they wanted to get out of those calls back then was a quack. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you, like my dad, like last year, he was listening to Benjamin Berlisle on his Reelfoot, and he's like, that's just stupid loud. He's like, that is just ridiculously loud. And man, and you can hear him, like the first year Brian Byers, he was sitting on the pickup truck, I think, in the back, and just blowing those metal reeds, and they just echoed, and it's just awesome. There's no other sound like it.
Nope, not at all. It's definitely unique, and I think that's an advantage when you're hunting too, right? Like everyone's blowing a J-frame. Well, you got this other call that sounds a little different. You never know. So
Yeah. Yeah, and they were working back then, and I know guys still use them today, and they work great. So, yeah, I'm probably going to have a full metal reed lanyard this year, just to hunt with.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that sounds like that's a good lanyard there.
I just think that metal reeds have just not been. People have focused more on J-frames than any other platform for the most part. So I just think the metal reed platform it's as relevant as it was back in 1867. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Ryan, thank you so much, everyone that's been tuning in. And you can tune back and watch where we went through the rules and all that. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Ryan, if you don't mind, just stay on the line, and I'm just going to close her out right now.
All right, sounds good.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Please come to Reelfoot. It will be a fun time. I promise it will. It's got, you'll just be sitting around a fire with Ryan Doering or Waylon Thompson or Ryan Russo or Brian Byers, and just looking at calls or listening to the competition. It's a great, great time. And speaking of, it's going to be amazing. The debate tonight, you don't want to miss it. It's fantastic. You don't want to miss it. So everyone, it's been a great time. I will make sure to tune in next time and come to Reelfoot this year. It'll be fun. Okay, playing outro music.